Okay, welcome back everybody. We're going to do a tomato review today on this tomato right here, and this is called the Blue Bayou tomato. Now, I've done reviews in the past on the Blue Bayou. I figured I'd revisit it this year, mainly because I wanted to show you what this tomato looks like when it doesn't get direct sunlight. And that's the case with this tomato. It really wasn't getting much sunlight on the tomatoes themselves, and this is what it looks like. Now, in the past videos, in past images, the tomatoes were very dark or blue or even purple in color, and so that's what they look like, and people think that that's what the tomatoes should look like no matter what. Well, that's only because those tomatoes were getting hit by direct sunlight and they turn that color. When they don't get hit by direct sunlight, they look like this, and that's why I'm revisiting this this particular tomato. So this is called the Blue Bayou. I'm going to put a couple of images in here really quick and show you what they looked like in the past and how blue they get as opposed to what you're looking at now. And you could even see that star pattern on the top where this thing is right here. You can see that star pattern up there where when it was down, the little bit of light that was getting through, you could see how it left like an imprint, like it was blanked out. So these tomatoes really, if you really want them to get blue or really purple like that, these will basically turn black, but they don't look black. These Blue Bayous actually get a slight blue color to them. That's why they call them that. And if you get them fully sunned all the way around them, they look really amazing. They really do look like a slightly blue tone type of tomato. But unfortunately, they didn't do it this year because I was just completely covered with tomato plants. And so you got to really, if you want that blue color, you really got to plant it by itself and strip off a lot of the leaves that are hiding that tomato. Strip a lot of those leaves off and let those tomatoes just get hit by direct sunlight. They will turn absolutely black. They look incredible, to be honest with you. So I might do that in the future again, and we'll get these tomatoes really black, or some of the other black varieties of tomatoes, we can get them really black. But so anyway, that's what they look like. Here's what it looks like on the inside. Okay, that's just one type. And what we'll do, or what I've been doing, is throwing it on the scale for you. To give you an idea of the weight. Now these Blue Bayous they get a lot of different shapes and weight. Generally when they're growing in full sun and they're getting everything they need, they'll generally be round like this. And they'll turn completely blue. But oftentimes you will get some of the tomatoes will come off kind of looking like that. And in some cases even larger than that. They can even get as big as maybe twice the size of what you see here. Okay, so the sizes can vary quite a bit. But if they're in direct sunlight and the plant is really healthy and it's growing really crazy, generally all the tomatoes are going to come off of one bract and they're going to look nice and uniform and round like this. They don't always look like, they're not always going to look like this, but you may get a few that will look like that. So don't panic if you see that. All right, so let's take a look at what the weight is. All right, so push you forwards. Sorry about that. Okay, that's 0.8. That's one of the larger ones. 0.8. And then this is your typical size right here. This is generally what you're going to get mostly. And they're about 0.6. So you're looking at somewhere around a half of an ounce in general for the tomato. Okay, so let's do a bricks on this, and then we can do a taste test. So let's get that bricks meter out. And this is another thing too. I never did a bricks on this one. And some of you are probably like, oh, who cares about bricks? Some people live and die by bricks, guys. They live and die by the bricks. Okay, it's about a 5. That's been pretty typical this year. It's about 5 on the bricks. And if I remember correctly, yeah, the tomatoes from the first time I've had them, they weren't terribly sweet, so you can't honestly expect them to be sugary. But a lot of people are turned off by black tomatoes, and the reason why they're turned off by black tomatoes is the black tomatoes tend to have like a not so inviting type of flavor, and so a lot of people get turned off by that, but a lot of people like to grow them just because of the aesthetics of them. They're pretty incredible looking tomatoes. but you can't get thrown off by that. But they're not going to be generally a sweet tomato too. That's another thing. The black tomatoes in general, or blue tomatoes, they're usually not very sweet. We'll do another one. I just want to make sure I'm going to get this flavor right on here. It's very typical of what it tasted like. See, now it's fried chamber. Very typical of what I remember it tasting like in years past. I don't grow these every year, so, you know, every couple of years I'll grow them. All right, so we can come up with a number for it. Okay, like we always do, let's start off with, let me back you out a little bit there. Okay, so like we always do, we always start off with the sweetness. Okay, so the sweetness was relatively low. They never have been really sweet tomatoes, and that was to be expected. So the sweetness is generally lower than average, so I'm going to probably say the sweetness was probably, average would be 25 on this scale from 0 to 50. 25 would be average. You're probably looking at maybe, I don't know, maybe like a 19, something like that. It wasn't even 20. So yeah, it's kind of low on the sweetness. You're not really going to get a sweet flavor out of this tomato. That's not the type of tomato that this is. You got to apply this tomato a little differently. Now, as far as tangy goes, that was relatively normal. So average would be 25 on average. So we're going to be above that. I'm going to say about 31, 32 on a tangy. So it was like right in the good zone. 30 to 35 is generally pretty good. So this was right in the average flavor of tanginess. It was right in there. So that's where we are with the tangy. The tomato flavor was actually pretty nice. It has a nice tomato flavor. Now, on a scale of 0 to 10, what was the intensity of the flavor? Again, it's not about what I'm rating the flavor as, how good it is. This rating is for how intense was the tomato flavor in this tomato profile. And it was just slightly above average. I'm going to say from a 0 to 10, 10 being the highest, I'm going to say it was probably about a 5.5. It was just slightly above average. And the tomato flavor really did carry to the back of your tongue, and it hangs around there. A very nice tomato flavor that this has. So yeah, it was about a 5.5 as far as strength, so it's a little above average. Moisture was pretty moist. Again, we're going to put that at about a 6, slightly above average, perfect for your tomato ranges. You want to be a little above average when it comes to moisture, so it can deliver that whole flavor package to the back of your tongue. So this is about a 6. Tardy or sour, it had a slight bit of tardiness, probably say a 1 on the tardiness. There was a little something going on there. But maybe if you really, really ripen them up, that tardiness might go away. But there was something there, so we're going to go with a 1 on that. Now, undertones, there is an undertone to this tomato, and it's a little strange, like kind of a flavor. I'm not sure if it's because their black tomatoes have that kind of a flavor or not, but I notice this kind of flavor is pretty common with these black tomatoes. There is an undertone with it. It is a little weird, like I guess if you wanted to call it an earthy type of tone. I don't know it's not a berry flavor or anything. It's kind of like an earthy type of a tone, maybe a wild type of a tone. And there was a little something there. It wasn't super prominent, but there was definitely something there. I'm going to put the undertones at about a 2, because I did sense and taste this undertone. And it lasted all the way up until the tomato flavor was set on the back of your tongue, and then that undertone disappears, and then you can really taste the true flavor of this tomato. Texture was nice. You're going to put that at an average. It was a decent texture. Skins broke up pretty nicely, and it was pretty decent that wise, you know, so the texture was definitely at least average. And production, I wouldn't call this the best producing variety of tomato, but I do good on certain years. It just seems like some years do better than others. So the only thing I can really say with this is production is probably going to be about a 4.5. It's probably a little less than average, considering a lot of the other tomatoes this size that we grow will do a lot better. So it's a little bit less than average as far as production goes. But don't let that scare you, because you could just grow 2 or 3 plants and you'll get plenty of these tomatoes. So don't let that throw you off. Now, how do I rate this tomato from 10 to 1, 1 obviously being the highest? How would I rate this tomato? I'd probably rate it at about a 3. I wouldn't go you know, off the wall on it, but it's a pretty good tomato. It's just, if you're not a tomato loving type person, you're going to have a problem with some of those undertones and some of the other things that I'm talking about. They'll throw you off a little bit. And, you know, you just got to have to deal with that. You know, a lot of people would be bothered by that. So don't let that bother you. But, yeah, I wouldn't go higher than a 3 for this. And, you know, on it, just in general, just the whole tomato itself. What's even keeping it in the 3, I'd probably go a little lower and probably go to like 4, but what's keeping it in the 3 range is the fact that it turns blue and it gets this really amazing looking color. It really truly is an amazing tomato. So if it wasn't for that, I'd probably rate it a little lower. But you guys, you can't, if you've never grown this tomato before, you definitely got to give it a grow if you're a tomato person. I got all kinds of flies coming in here because I got the light on. It's night out. And but yeah, if you've never done this variety before, definitely give it a go. It's worth growing. I mean, you can't, if you're a tomato person, you can't say, you know, I lived my whole life and I never grew that tomato. You got to give this one a grow. It's a fun grow. It's an interesting tomato. You'll learn a little something about blue tomatoes or black tomatoes. And yeah, give it a go. So that's it. That's our review for the Indigo Rose. What I'll do is I'll leave a link in the description below where it'll bring you to the website, and you could buy seeds for this if you want. And you could also read about it in the description below, and you can read about this tomato on the description on my website. Now keep in mind, a lot of times I update the websites and I don't update the description in the you know, the video. So you might be looking for information on this, and if I don't have any data or details on it, you're not going to see it in the video. You have to visit the website and just double check there to see if it's got everything you're looking for. All right, so that's it, guys. That's my tomato review for the Blue Bayou. I may have said Indigo Rose earlier. That's a mistake. This is the Blue Bayou. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.